Hello, I'm Nuruzzaman Faruqui, Senior Lecturer of the Department of Software Engineering of Daffodil International University, the best university to study software engineering in Bangladesh. In this lesson, we will learn how to implement CRUD operations using Django framework. So, what is CRUD operations? CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. These are the four basic operations that are executed on database models. Think about Facebook. What do we do on Facebook? We create posts. Once we publish it, it becomes visible. That means people can read it. If necessary, we modify it. That means we update the post. And we can delete the post. That means what we do on Facebook are actually CRUD operations. Think about LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. CRUD operation is at the heart of these services. Wikipedia, YouTube, BBC or CNN.com. CRUD operations are everywhere. That is why we are focusing on CRUD. The main purpose of this lesson is to learn Django framework. Learning Web framework is mandatory for students who want to build a career in web development. Have you ever heard your teacher saying that it is impossible to cover frameworks in the classroom? You should learn on your own? If you need to learn on your own, why do you need to go to the classrooms? It is true that any popular framework is too big to cover in a semester, along with other topics such as HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, PHP, and Python. However, learning everything is not effective learning. The best way to learn a framework is to learn how to implement CRUD operations using that framework. And this is what we are going to learn in this lesson. Django CRUD operations. This lesson has been prepared as learning material for my classes. Here in the Department of Software Engineering of DIU, we never tell our students, go and learn on your own. We teach them, help them, guide them, train them, and once they are ready, we tell them go and apply on your own. And I hope that after completing this lesson, you will be able to use Django framework to perform CRUD operations and build amazing applications. If you face any trouble, you can email me at faruqui.swe@diu.edu.bd, or you can visit the DIU campus. It is the most beautiful private university campus in Bangladesh. Let's start today's lesson, Django CRUD operations. We are going to build this dummy library app. It doesn't do much. It can upload books. That means users can create content. It shows the books here. That means users can read content. If necessary, users can update information and they can delete contents. So this is the CRUD application we are going to implement using Django framework. Django is a high-level Python web framework that encourages rapid development and clean, pragmatic design. That means to use Django, we must install Python first. Python is a highly portable language available for all major operating systems. Let's see how to install the latest version of Python on Windows operating system. You need to visit the official Python website at python.org. and then navigate through the Downloads tab to the Downloads for Windows and click the button to begin downloading the latest Python version. The downloading has started. Here is the installer. Double-click on it to start it. After the installer starts, be sure to enable the option to add Python to the path environment variable before moving on by clicking Install Now. You may be asked to approve the Python installer making changes to your device, which you should accept. After a few seconds, the installation will complete, and you can close the installer and your web browser. After installing Python, type command prompt on the search bar and launch the command prompt. Here, type python -version. If Python is properly installed, you will get the current version of Python installed on your computer. Now we need to install the Django framework. To do it, type pip install Django and hit enter. The Django installation will start, and it has been installed successfully. Now we need to create our project, and we are going to create a dummy library to implement the CRUD method using Django. To start a project, we have to write Django-admin start project. Then we have to write the project name. Let's name our project DIU library. You might be wondering, what type of name is this? You can come up with any name you prefer. Actually, DIU stands for Daffodil International University. This is the best university to study software engineering in Bangladesh. I work here as a senior lecturer. The DIU campus is like a green heaven, perhaps the most beautiful private university campus in Bangladesh. And my favorite place here in DIU is the library. This is the most well-organized library I have ever seen in my country. And that is why I'm naming this project DIU Library. But you are free to use any name you want. Now, use the cd command followed by the name of the project directory, DIU Library, and hit enter. We can see we are in the project directory now. Here, we will create our first app. Django projects are consisted of multiple apps. In our CRUD example, we will create only one app. To create app, type python manage.py start app. Then provide the name of the app. Let's name it book. There is no error message here. That means the app has been created. You can find the project directory and the app in this location. Let's open the File Explorer, then go to C drive, then Users folder, then this folder. Here we can see the DIU library folder. Inside of this folder, this is the project and this is the book app. And we can also see the manage.py file. Manage.py in Django is a command line utility that works similar to Django admin command. The difference is that it points towards the project settings.py file. This manage.py utility provides various commands that we must have to use while working with Django. It is time to launch your favorite code editor to start building the DIU library app using CRUD method. I use Visual Studio Code. You are free to use your favorite code editor. However, it will be easier for you to follow if you use Visual Studio Code. So pause this video, download and install VS Code and then resume the video. The VS Code window has started. From here, click on File. Then click Open Folder. A window will appear. From here, locate the project directory. Get inside of the project folder and click this Select Folder button. Here is our project opened in VS Code Editor. Let's expand the project and the app directory. This is the Django project structure. Before start coding, we must understand the Django project structure. Our Django project is inside of the DIO library directory. Inside of this directory, we have two more directories, book and DIO library. We can see two more files here. One is db.sqlite3, which is the SQLite database. Another one is manage.py, which is the command line utility for our project. And this is the basic structure of the Django project. The projects are normally consisted of one or more than one apps. In our project, we have an app named Book. We could have created more apps. However, the purpose of this tutorial is to show you how to implement CRUD operations using Django framework. We are not developing a complete solution for a library. That's why, to keep things simple, we have only one app here. Let's expand the project directory. Here we have PyCache, the init file, ASGI, settings, URLs, and WSGI files. Let's expand the app directory. Here we have the migrations directory, init file, admin, apps, models, tests, and view Python files. To understand how Django works, we must understand the roles of these files. Let's start with manage.py. We will use this file for debugging, deploying, and running our web applications. The file contains the code for running the server, make migrations, and several other commands as well, which we perform in the code editor. It performs the same things as Django admin, but it provides some project-specific functionality. Let's have a look at what we have in the manage.py file. Go to Terminal and then click on New Terminal. Here on the terminal window, type python manage.py and hit enter. We will see the available commands. Let's try run server command. This command is used to start the test server for our web application provided by Django framework. On the terminal, type python manage.py, then run server, and hit enter. You'll see starting the development server at this address. Go to this address. We can press Ctrl and click on this link. It opens in your default web browser. Here it is. We can see the Django development server is up and running. We will use these commands during Django project development. Few of these commands are frequently used, and make migrations is one of them. When we create some project, we use this command to apply new migrations across projects and apps in the database. Before using make migrations command, we use the migrate command. We use this for making the changes in the database schema. There is no need to memorize or worry about these commands. We will use these over and over again, and eventually using these commands will be your second nature. PyCache is a directory that contains the bytecode cache files that are automatically generated by the Python. The init is an empty file. It tells the Python interpreter that this directory is a package. When the init file is in this package, it is considered as a Python project. The ASGI stands for Asynchronous Server Gateway Interface. In Django, the codes are synchronous internally, while the ASG server handles requests asynchronously. By allowing the web server to handle asynchronous callable, it can handle multiple incoming and outgoing events for each application. The settings is the Django project configuration file. That means it is the main settings of the project. It contains some pre-installed apps and middleware to provide basic functionality. The database settings, logging information, language, time zone, path to specific files, etc. are stored in this file. The URLs file contains the base URLs of the project. It tells Django that if a user comes with this URL, direct them to that particular web page, image, video, and so on. During development, we use the Django built-in server. We cannot use Django web server while deploying the app on live server. Here comes the WSGI, which stands for Web Server Gateway Interface. It describes the way how servers interact with the applications. However, because of some additional functionality, eventually the WSGI is being replaced by ASGI. Migrations are Django's way of applying changes you make to the models into your database schema. For example, adding a field, deleting a model, and so on. They're designed to be mostly automatic, but you will need to know when to make migrations and when to run them and the common problems you might run into. Django creates a migration file inside of the migrations folder for each model to create the table schema, and each table is mapped to the model of which migration is created. The admin is used for registering the Django models into the Django administration. It is used to display the Django model in the Django admin panel. It performs three major tasks: registering models, creating Superuser, logging in, and using the web application. Using these apps, we include the application configuration to the app. For example, if we need to configure the attributes of our apps, then we have to use this file. We include the models of the web applications as classes in the models file. It also defines the structure of the database. We define the actual design, relationships between the datasets, and their attribute constraints in the model file. Before deploying, we need to test if the application is working properly or not. We use tests file to do it. In Django framework, views are Python functions or classes that receive a web request and return a web response. The response can be a simple HTTP response, an HTML template response or an HTTP redirect response that redirects a user to another web page. Now you have enough knowledge about Django project structure. If you feel like that you haven't understood the roles of the elements of the Django project, there is nothing to worry about. During the project development, I'll explain the roles of these files again. We should always run the server at the beginning of any Django project. It helps us to understand if everything is okay. Go to the terminal and click on New Terminal. Then on the terminal, type in Python manage.py run server and hit enter. And the server is running. Go to this link. You can press Ctrl from Windows and then click on this link. We can see the server is running. As long as the server is running, we can be sure that we didn't make any mistake in our code. This is how it helps us to understand that everything is okay. At the very beginning, we have to install our app. It is pretty simple and a straightforward task. Go to Settings, then scroll down. You'll find Installed App. Simply write the name of the app to install it. The name of our app is Book, and it has been installed. Save the code by pressing Ctrl+S. We can see the server is running. That means no error occurred. Let's change the name of the app and then save the code. This time the server stopped running and we can see that it encountered an error because we do not have any app named Book123. Let's use the correct name and save again. Right after we save the code, as there is no error, the server starts running. This is how the server status helps us to understand if everything is working properly or not. So, our Book app is installed successfully. We will upload images using our app. For that, we need to create a directory where we will store them. Let's create a file here and name it Media. Now scroll up and import the OS module. Then scroll down. After this static URL, add another variable named static_root. Then use the path method of OS and join method of path to join the base directory with the static files. That means this is the path to the static files. Any static file of this project can be accessed using this path. Now create a variable named media_URL and set media / to it. It refers to the media folder. Then create another variable media_root. Same as before, join the base directory with the media folder. So the media files we will have uploaded can be accessed using this path. The media files we will have in this project are images. To handle images, we need to install Python Pillow library. It is a popular Python library for imaging. Open another terminal window by clicking here and type pip install pillow, then hit enter. I already have this library installed. If you do not have it, then it will be installed. After that, we can return to the previous terminal. It is time to create the project template. First of all, open your web browser and search for Bootstrap. Go to the getbootstrap.com. Then click on Get Started. On this web page, scroll down and copy the starter template. Now get back to the VS Code editor, create a directory under the book directory and name it Templates. Inside of this directory, create another directory named Book. Here, create a file and name it library.html. Then paste the Bootstrap starter template here. Change the title from Hello World to Book App. Remove it and create a nav element. We are going to design the app template using Bootstrap. That means we need to type a lot of Bootstrap class names. We can use the HTML CSS support extension to help us with the Bootstrap class names. It will auto-complete the names and will save us from a lot of typing and, of course, typing mistakes. Go to the extension by clicking here. Then, here on the search bar, type in HTML CSS support. Here it is. Install it. Then go back to the library.html. Now, as we type the class names, we get the suggestions. Here, using the navbar, navexpandlg, navdark, and bgdark classes. This course is about Django. That is why I'm not spending much time on explaining the basics of HTML, CSS, and Bootstrap. Next, create a division. It will have the collapse, navbar collapse classes. We need to assign an ID, and it is navbar toggler demo01. Then create an anchor element. It has the navbar brand class. Keep the href attribute empty for the time being. And the link text is Daffodil International University. Let's put this text inside of the opening and closing h4 tag to make it large and bold. Now create an unordered list. The classes for these elements are navbar nav, mrauto, mt2, mtlg0. Now create a list item and assign navitem class to it. The item is an anchor element which will have the nav link class. Keep the href value empty for now. The text for the anchor element is admin panel and it is inside of the h4 tags. Do the same for another list item. This time, write upload books here. Alright, the navigation bar is ready. Let's copy the path of this file and paste it on URL bar of a web page and hit enter. This is the navigation bar we have created. Now, use a beer tag to have a little space in between the nav bar and the rest of the part of the template. Create a division and assign the container fluid class to it. Inside, create an H4 element. Let's assign the text center and P5 class to it. Now write Daffodil International University, the best university to study software engineering in Bangladesh. This university has the country's most well-organized library. Create another division. Let's give it a class name, CRUD columns. Inside, create another division. It will have the CRUD class. Let's change the width to 18 rem using inline CSS. Then use the image tag and assign CRUD image top class to it. For the time being, keep the source attribute empty. Now create another division, and it will have the CRUD body class. Here, use the H5 tags and write book name. It will have CRUD title class. Then create a paragraph element. The class is CRUD text and write book description here. Create another division. This division will have CRUD footer, BG transparent, and border dark classes. Let's have a paragraph element here and give it the CRUD title class. Write book author here. Now use opening and closing center tag. Here create an anchor element. At the beginning, the href is empty and it has the btn primary classes. Write edit here. Create another anchor element. Same as before, the href is empty. Let's use btn danger classes this time. And write delete here. We need to add IDs to both of these elements. For the time being, keep them empty. That's it. Our template is ready. Save it and copy the path to this file. Open up the web browser, paste the path on the URL bar and hit enter. So this is our library template. The books will be displayed in this card. For every book, a separate card will be generated. Now create another file in the book directory. Name it upload_forms.html. We will use this file to upload books. That means we need to create a form. Take the opening and closing center tag. Then use the form tags. Without any doubt, we will use post method for security reason. And encryption type is multi-part form data. Then create a table. Although tables are not ideal for template formatting, to keep things simple, I'm using table. This table will have W50, table, and table light classes. Then use the inline CSS to set the border radius to 10 pixels. After that, create a row using tr tags. Inside, create a th element. The table header is for field label. Then td element, and it is for field. So what is this field label and field? We will get the answer when we will start using this template. Now create a button element, and the text it will show is upload. The value of type attribute is submit, and classes are btn, btnlg, btnsuccess, and md5. And this completes the template. Don't forget to save it. We will work on the models now. However, I guess you might have noticed that my server is not running. And you know the server status helps us to understand if our code is correct or not. So let's run the server by typing python manage.py run server. The server is running, that means everything is fine so far. I hope you remember that we use SQL to create database tables. It is unnecessary to say it involves multiple complex SQL queries for creating, deleting, updating, and performing other operations. When we use Django instead of SQL, we use this models.py. That means Django models simplify the task and organize tables into models. Generally, each model maps to a single database table. So now we understand what does this models file do. Let's create the model for our DIU library. Create a class named book. Then inherit model object from models. From the models, access the character field method. That means we are creating a field in the database table which is a character type. The maximum length of the field is 50. Let's store it in the name variable. After that, we need a field on the data table which handles images. And we do it by accessing the image field method of the models object. Store it in the picture variable. Now access the character field method from the models object again. We can set the maximum length to 30. And the default value is guessed. Now we can save it in a variable named author. So this field is for author name. The maximum character it allows is 30. If no name is specified, the guest will be used as a name instead. Now use the email field method from the models object. We won't force the users to enter a valid email address. So set blank to true. Then store it in email variable. Now take another variable named description. The description is a text field. Let's set some default value to the text field, and it is available in DIU. So our model is ready. Now this models.py will create the database table and fields of that table. We don't need to use any SQL command. The Django will take care of it for us. Now define __str _self method and return self.name. This is a Python method. We call this method when we use print or string to convert object into string. In Django, it should be used to return a name for an object using a particular model class. So, our model is ready. Save the code. In our app, we will use forms to upload books. Let's create a Python file named forms.py to handle the form. First of all, from Django, we need to import forms module. After that, from .models, we need to import the book. Here, this dot means current directory. The model is in our current directory. That is why we added this dot here. Now create a class named bookCreate or whatever you want. Then inherit the model from the forms. Now this class represents the model form. We are going to use the book model, but this class doesn't know it. So we define a meta class inside of this class. Then we set model equal book. Now this class knows it has to handle a form to communicate with the book model. However, the book model has multiple fields. We need to specify which field this class can access. So field equal double underscores, all double underscores. It means the class can access all fields of the book model. And that's enough for our application. Now we need to register the book model in admin. Here is the admin.py file. Click on it to open it. First of all, from .models, import the book model. Then access the site method of admin object. And then access the register method of the site object. Finally, write the name of the model we want to register. Our model is book. Save the code, and that's it. The book model has been registered. Here the server is still running. Press Ctrl+C to stop it. Now we have to make the migrations. Making migrations means preparing the model to send to the database. To do it, type Python manage.py make migrations and hit enter. We can see the migration has been generated successfully. That means it has been created but not applied. To apply it, type Python manage.py migrate and hit enter. We can see the model is being migrated to the database and the process is complete. So now we have the table and necessary fields on the table of our book app in the database. We need to create a super user now to allow him to administer the app. To do it, type Python manage.py, create super user and hit enter. It will ask for the username. Let's say the username is DIU library. Then we need to assign the email address. I'm using my official email address, that is faruqui.swe@diu.edu.bd. Now we need to create the password. I'm using 123456. Pretty simple password. Repeat it again. The password is short and pretty simple. That is why Django is giving us warnings. For the time being, let's ignore the warning and press Y from the keyboard, then hit enter. The super user has been created. Now we can access the admin panel using the username DIU library and password 123456. Before going any further, let's run the server again using Python manage.py run server. Then go to views. The Django views are the key component of applications built with the framework. They are Python functions or classes that take a web request and return a web response. Views are used to do things like fetch objects from the database, modify those objects if needed, render forms, return HTML, and much more. At the beginning, import redirect. Then from .models, import book. And from .forms, import book create. After that, from Django.http, import HTTP response. Now define a function named index and it will have the request parameter. You can use any name you want, however, request sounds appropriate. Because this index function receives an HTTP request and responses to that request. Now take a variable named shelf, then store all objects of book in the shelf variable. After that, return the render function. The first argument of this function is the request. Then we need to specify the web page that will respond to this function. It is the library.html file which is inside of the book directory. The last argument is a dictionary. Here the key is the shelf and the value is the shelf variable. Our app uploads books, so we need a function to take care of this task. Define a function named upload and it takes a parameter named request. Then take a variable named upload and store the book crate object in it. If request method is post, then resave the book crate object in the upload variable with two arguments. The first one is the request.post and the second one is the request.files. That means first argument represents the type of request and the second argument represents files we want to upload. Now, if upload is valid, only then we will save it. After that, we will redirect to the index, that means the home page. Sometimes the upload can be invalid. In those cases, return an HTTP response with a message. The message says something went wrong. Please reload the web page by clicking create an embedded anchor element here and the value of href attribute is the URL :index inside of double curly brackets. In Django, we use these double curly brackets to show the value of variables into template. Here, the anchor element text is reload. That means if the upload fails, the user will be requested to go to the index or home page. If the for method is not post, that means if this if statement is false, then return the render function. The first argument of this function is request. Second argument is the upload form HTML file which is inside of the book directory. The third argument is a dictionary. Here, upload form is the key and the value is the upload variable. So, this is our upload function. We need to be able to edit the books we upload on DIU library. Let's create a function named updateBook to do it. This function has two parameters, request and book ID. At the beginning, take the book_id variable. Then use the int function and book underscore ID as the input to the int function to convert it to integer. Now we are going to use a try except block. In the try block, create a variable named book underscore shelf. Then access the get method from the objects method of the book object. Here we are trying to get the book has ID equal to the book ID. If it finds the book, it will be stored in this variable. Except use the does not exist method of the book object and return the redirect function with the index argument. It will return the user to the home page. Now create a variable named book underscore form. Create a book create object with two arguments. The first argument is request.post or none. That means it doesn't matter what request type is, either post or none, we will accept the request. Second argument is instance equal book underscore shelf. Here we are simply passing the bookshelf. If the book form is valid, then save the change. Then use the redirect to index as the return value to return to the home page. If the statement is false, then return the render function. The first argument of this function is the request. Second argument is the upload form, which handles the book upload process. And the last argument is a dictionary, where the key is the upload form and the value is the book form. And that's it. The update function is ready. Now we need a function to delete uploaded books. Define a function named delete underscore book. The parameters of this function are request and book ID. At the beginning, convert the book ID into integer and store it back in the book ID variable. Then we will use a try except block. In the try block, take a variable named book underscore shelf, then store the get method of the objects of book in the bookshelf if the ID is equal to book ID received by the function. Except when the book does not exist, return redirect function with the index as argument. After that, use the delete method on the bookshelf and return redirect function with the index argument. And that's it. The delete function is ready. Now inside of the book app, create a new Python file and name it urls.py. In this file, from the Django.urls, import the path module at the beginning. Then, from the current directory, here this dot means current directory, import views. Then from the diu library.settings, import debug, static URL, static root, media URL and media root. Finally, from the django.conf.urls.static, import static. Now write URL patterns. It is very important to spell it in this exact way. It is a list. The first item of the list is the path function. Path is used for routing URLs to the appropriate view functions within a Django application. Here, in the path function, the first argument is the route. In other words, we specify here where this path should take us. In this case, keep it empty because we are referring to the home page. That means the route for the home page should be empty. Now, the second argument is the related functions in the views. The home page is controlled by the index function we defined in the views. And the third argument is a key value pair. The key is name and the value is some name. In this case, I'm using index. Use a comma at the end of the item. Then on a new line, take the path function again. This time, the first argument, that means the route, is upload slash. This function is defined as upload in the views. Then assign the name. I like to call it upload-book. Again, use the comma to start a new line. Here, in another path function, the route is update slash. This time, we need to use int book ID inside of a set of angle brackets. Remember, we have book IDs to identify individual books, and the update function requires the book ID. This is that book ID. Then the next argument is the update book function of the views. Put a comma at the end, and in a new line, again use the path function. This time, the first argument is the delete slash. The delete function requires the book ID. So after the slash, a set of angle brackets, type int book ID. And the last argument is the delete book function, which is inside of the views.py. That's it. The URL patterns has been defined. During the development phase, we need to be able to use the static files and media files. That means we want the Django server to serve the static and media files if the debug is active. Now we need to specify the URL pattern. Here, URL patterns plus equal, that means the addition assignment operator, then use the static function. The first argument of this function is static URL, and the second argument is the document root, which is static root. This line allows the Django server to serve the static files. We need the media files too. That is why, again, use the URL patterns, then addition assignment operator, then static function. First argument is the media URL, and the second argument is the document root, which is the media root. Now Django will serve the media files too. However, in the production, that means when the debug is false, Django does not serve the static or media file. In that case, we need to configure the web server. But for the time being, that is not our concern. So, our urls.py file is ready. This URLs file is for the book app only. That means it works inside of the book app. However, you can see there is another URLs file in the project directory. We access the app through the project. That means we need to edit this project URLs so that Django can find the book app. Let's open this urls.py file. You can see the necessary libraries are already here. However, we need to add one more module, that is, include module. Then add a path function and keep the route empty. This empty route refers to the index or the home page. Then we need to include the book.urls, and that's it. Now our Django project, that means DIU library, knows where the book app is and what are the associated URLs inside of the book app. It is time to link the backend with the frontend. These two HTML files are our frontend. Open up the library.html. Now under the opening HTML tag, type opening and closing curly brackets. Then inside put two percentage symbols. This syntax is known as Django template tag. We use template tags to place programming logics such as if, for, while, etc. on HTML page. It is also used to call tags such as static, load, etc. In this case, we are loading the static files. Then go to the navbar brand. We kept the href empty on purpose. Here use the Django template tag again. Then type URL. After that, in a set of single quotation marks, type index. The Django will render the URL of the index page here. Do the same on this anchor tag. Use the template tag again. Here we want the URL of admin index. The admin page is powered by a separate index. This is different than the index function we have created. This index belongs to the admin page and thus we have written admin:index. Do the same for this link. Here, render the URL of the upload book page. Take another template tag. With these, we are creating a block or section on the template. Type block content. Here, the name of our section is content. This is the starting point of the content, and this is the end of this block. Now we have specified the content block. We need to loop the code so that every book is read and displayed on the web page. Use a Django template tag. Here inside of this tag we can write Python code. Let's have a for loop here. For book in shelf, remember the shelf variable we created? This is that one. And here the for loop ends. Now we are going to place a template variable here. The syntax of template variable is double curly brackets. Here we can write the variables and the Django will render the values of those variables. Let's call the book.picture.url here. When this template will be rendered, the image URL of the book will be rendered here. This book is coming from here. It is object and it holds the URL of the picture of the book, book name, description, and other information. Here, replace the book name with the template variable. Then type book.name. That means the name of the book will be displayed here. Then use another template variable here and type book.description. So the description value will be rendered here. Then do the same for the book author. type book.author here. The Django will render the value of the book.author here. Here on the href of the edit anchor element, type update / then use a template variable and type in book.id. That means this anchor element will pass the book ID to the update function. We kept the ID attribute empty. Place a template variable here and use the book.id. On the href value of anchor element for deleting the books, type delete / then in a template variable type in book.id. It will pass the book ID to the delete function. And of course, inside of the template variable, type the book.id here. So the library template is ready. Now it is linked to the Django framework. Let's go to the upload form web page now. While creating this web page, we intentionally didn't add any bootstrap or CSS here, because we can use Django extend tag, then simply write the name of the web page from which we want to borrow the extension. Here we are including the extension from the book/library.html. Now specify this block as content. Use the block tag and name it content. Then end the block. After that, use the CSRF token tag. Django CSRF token tag helps avoiding malicious attacks. It generates a token on the server side when rendering the page and makes sure to cross-check this token for any request coming back in. If the incoming requests do not contain the token, they are not executed. So this is a security feature, and the full form of CSRF is cross-site request forgery. Enough talking about CSRF. Now initiate a template tag here to put a for loop here. For field in the upload form, then end the for loop here. Now replace the field label by a template variable. We want to render the field.label value here, and here we want to render the field directly. It is time to run the application. The server is still running. Let's close it by pressing Ctrl+C, then type Python manage.py run server and hit enter. Then go to this URL. You can press Ctrl and click on this link to open it on the web browser. Here, this is our DIU library web app. We do not have any book right now. That is why it is empty. Let's upload some books. To upload a book, click on the Upload Books from the navigation bar. Type the name of the book. I'm uploading Open Source Computer Vision for Beginners. Then choose the image of the book. After that, write the author name. I'm the author of this book, typing my name, Nuruzzaman Faruqui. Then the email address. It is faruqui.swe@diu.edu.bd. Let's keep the description as it is. Click the upload button. Here we can see the book is on the library. And the information we provided is here. Let's upload another book. A Journey Towards Entrepreneurship. Upload the image of the book. The author is Dr. M.D. Sabur Khan, one of the most successful entrepreneurs of this country. Let's use a dummy email address here. In the description, type in, "This book is available in DIO library." Then click Upload. Here is the book. Let's modify the library.html page to bring these books side by side. Here, type float property and the value is left. Save the code and go back to the DIO library, reload the web page. The books are now side by side. Let's upload another book. The name of this book is Learning Cloud Computing. Upload the picture. The authors of these books are Dr. Nuruzzaman and I am Nuruzzaman Faruqui. We are allowed to keep the email empty. Let's change the description. It is, "You can get this book from our library." Click the Upload button. Working perfectly. So here we upload the books using Upload Books option. In the CRUD operation, it is called creating. We are creating the content. We can see the books here. According to the CRUD operation, it is called reading. The web page is reading the content. Let's click the Edit button. Then edit this description. This time it is available in DIU free of cost. Click on the Upload button. We can see the description has changed. That means we have modified the description. In CRUD operation, it is called updating. Now press this Delete button to delete this book. And this is the delete of CRUD operation. That means our app can perform create, read, update, and delete operation, which in short is known as CRUD operation. I hope you enjoyed this lesson and learned how to use Django to implement CRUD operations. If you face any problem, you can email me at faruqi.hwe@diu.edu.bd. Or you can visit the beautiful campus of Daffodil International University. And one last thing, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.